Welcome back to the Great British Crochet Off technical version, where I chat through the technical aspects of this week's episode of the Great British Crochet Off, a series where I watch that week's episode of the Great British Bake Off and then crochet something that inspires me from it. This week I made this Gala pie, pork pie pin cushion. So on this side you have like your pocket for all of your bits and bobs, and there's the little boiled egg running through. And on this side is your actual pin cushion. It keeps everything safe in your little work bag. Let's go back in time and see how we got here. It is pastry week, and here is the game plan. I want to do a pin cushion. I've been wanting to have another pin cushion. I already have one that I made for Bake Off out of a chocolate chip shortbread cookie biscuit. It was biscuit week, not cookie week. But I already have one that looks like a chocolate chip shortbread that I love, but I put all these gorgeous beads on the side, and I'm just afraid as I take it in and out of my like work bag that those beads are going to start to fall off. So I prefer that to be like the home pin cushion, have it sit here on my sewing table and use it in that. So I want one that can travel a little bit better. So when I was looking at the Gala pies, I was kind of looking at them almost like a picnic basket. And actually they did like the picnic pies for another series a while ago. But I basically want to make it where it's like a square pie shape. I'm going to do lattice on top instead of the leaves, because, and I'll decorate with a couple of crocheted leaves, but I want to do lattice on top so you have a place to like stick things like the scissors you're currently working with. And it's going to have like two flaps like a picnic basket, and you pull up one flap and there's the pin cushy part, there's like the stuffed part, and it's gonna look like some kind of pie filling. And then you pull up the other side and it's more like a little container where you can have like bits of scrap yarn, stitch markers, your little scissors and things like that. And I want to have, there'll be like a wall dividing the two, and I want to have here the little like egg, so I want it to look like the Gala pie if at all possible. So I'm going to start with my box structure and let's get going. So I spent a lot of time figuring out how big this was going to be last night, and I've started it. And so I'll put the patterns for each of the different components here. But first I worked this initial rectangle. This is just, I believe I chained 21, and then I worked like 12 or 13 rows. Again, it'll be here. And then I worked these other rectangles, these other pieces off of it. So I worked two side pieces. And then off of the top and the bottom, I worked these ones, and I added a couple of increases just so it doesn't look like I don't want it to look like a perfect rectangle, because that's not what like a pie, like a rectangular dinner pie looks like. So what I'm going to end up doing, and you can see they're pinned together here, these corners will come up and they'll make like the base box. And then these two will make the top, because I want the top to have a piece of something hard in it, some of this carding in it, and be hinged. So I made it out of two pieces, and then I'll put a seam I'll attach them together with two little squares of this carding in it, and I'll put a seam down the middle so that you can like lift up the two sides, kind of like a picnic basket. And then in this side is going to be the actual pin cushion. So I'll fill it with polyfill and put like some color of crocheted square on the top. And then this side is going to be the like bits and bobs, like storage area, little bits of scrap yarn, stitch markers, if I need like safety eyes for a project or anything like that. And I'm thinking about lining it with cloth, because I have lots of little bits of cute cloth. So my next steps are to finish the top here. I want to cut out my two pieces of plastic carding, sew them in it, put the seam down the middle. And then the next thing I want to do after that is make my pin cushion side. Ooh, I also have to make the divider. So I need to cut out another piece of this that it's going to be the divider in here. And then this side of the divider you won't see because there's going to be the pin cushion here, but this side of the divider will have like the Gala pie filling kind of going on. So again, next steps, finish the top, make my little divider plastic piece, and then finish the pin cushion side, because I think I can get that all done pretty quickly. I put the top to the side just for a minute because I thought it would be easier to actually put the decorations on the top while it was still open. So I decided to do my construction on like the pin cushion itself, and this is what I was talking about. So we have this little dividing wall. This is a little square of lemon peel stitch. I just thought it would look more meaty, I guess. kind of like a pinky brown color. So that's going to get sewn into there with polyfill under there. That's your pin cushion. And then this is going to get lined with something. I don't know what yet because I need the walls to have some structure. Otherwise, this is just going to be annoying. And here's my little divider that I sewed into here. So I'm going to polyfill this, sew this on, and then figure out what I'm going to line this with, and then also make the piece for here that includes our little egg. Those are the next steps. So this is where I'm at right now. I sewed my little the pork pie part of the pork pie into place. I made a tiny little egg. This is just a magic circle, and then I did an extra row of increases to make a, well, it's a slightly sloppy egg, but it's the best I could do in that size. So the pin cushion part of the pin cushion is done. And now what I'm doing is working on the lid. So I just crocheted some chains so they would kind of look like braided pastry. And then I interwove them into a lattice and I pinned them all down. And now I'm just going around the edges and sewing them down to the actual top here. When I did this one, I sewed the little hinge between the two pieces. So now these two pieces of plastic like won't go anywhere, and it kind of helps this hinge be a hinge so you can open either side. So I'm going to finish going around and sewing all of those closed, and then I'm going to sew this closed as well, this last seam here. And then I'm going to line this. I think I'm just going to crochet pieces out of this here to go here, here, and here, and put a little bit of this plastic carding between the two, sandwiched between the two pieces. And then the last thing I'll need to do is like my crimped edge, which I'm going to crochet a ruffle for. It's already so perfect. So I'm going to see if I can get this done tonight, which would be crazy. It's the next morning, and I did not finish this last night because I have a few more details I want to put onto it, but I lined this inside here. There's your secret little Gala pie egg, and I just made these little rectangles, and I put a little bit of carding in between them and the wall just to give it some structure so it doesn't immediately collapse. And then I finished sewing on all the latticey bits, and I kept most of them loose because I thought they'd be nice for like sticking your scissors into or whatever. But I did pin down these middle ones so that when you raise this, these stay down. The last thing I want to do is make just a couple of fall leaves to put in like the corners, and I think it's going to kind of hide the fact that this is not actually a top on the pie, but rather like floating here. So the last thing I'm going to do is make those leaves. I'm going to attach those, and then I'm going to feel, after I put some pins on the pin cushion, pretty well done. Oh, I forgot, I don't think that this ruffle was here. So it's all squished out of place because this was shoved in my like work bag. But I just made like a little crocheted ruffle around the edge, and that's kind of my, whatchamacallit, edge of the pie. So you can kind of work it back into place, but super cute, very easy. I just did 2 or 3 stitches of double crochet into every single stitch to make a ruffle. So I crocheted about just over a dozen leaves, and I sewed them along the edges just to kind of hide the fact that the edge of this floats a little bit. And now I'm stocking it up with pins, as it is a pin cushion. And I also have a couple of needles in here. The last thing I might do at some point is just put a hard layer of plastic sheeting underneath here, because it works better as a pin cushion when things don't just go straight through. So I might do that before I do the filming. I probably will, but I feel done with this for now, and all I'm going to do that is the original rectangle that I made. I'll just make another one of those and put a little piece of the plastic embroidery in there, and then just sew it up. So easy peasy lemon squeezy. That was just something I decided to do as I was putting pins and needles into this. But there is the side for holding bits and bobs. There's our little egg, and what a cute... I was worried I hadn't, quote unquote, done enough this week, but this is a cute little, very useful project, and sometimes that's enough. I don't have to do some ginormous back-breaking project. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you for the next one.